You guys sick of the slide yet? Here's the deal. This is, you know, cool, right? Everybody wants to be cool. Everybody wants to hang out with the cool kids. And this is what the cool kids are doing. Cool kids have all this stuff lined up, right? The cool kids have got source control, right? The cool kids have got their source control triggering builds in a continuous integration environment. The continuous integration environment puts stuff into an artifact repository, which is basically a T-SQL script. That gets used in QA, test, pre-prod, financial testing, load testing, performance testing, and then it goes out to production. That's what the cool kids are doing. Anybody think that they're really honestly one of the cool kids? Or are we mostly nerds? I'm a nerd, right? Hi, my name's Grant, I'm a nerd, right? It's the first step, and there's 11 more or something. Anyway, we're going to talk about this stuff in this presentation, but I'm hesitant to go too far. I'm hesitant to go too deep, because what I really want you to do is start to use this stuff. And a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about, and a lot of the things we're going to say, it's the cool kids, right? But the nerds have needs too, doggone it. And the fact is that if you get this, if you start working with continuous integration and build from there, you've done enough, right? One step, just one step. Look at that, start that approach. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, we're going to talk about all of it. We're going to kind of go over all of it, because you want to at least have an understanding of what's possible, what's achievable, what can you get done. Another thing I want to point out is I've actually done this stuff. It's not, I was doing this stuff. I actually had a full-blown database pipeline, automated deployments, automated server refreshes, rebuilds and refreshes from production of clean data. Anyone remembers my story from this morning? I learned that lesson the hard way. And I've done all that stuff even before Redgate built all these wicked cool tools that make it so much easier, right? You don't need us to get this done. You can do it all manually. It's harder by a long shot, but you can do it. And I just want to bring that up and point that out. I've done it before. I've been doing CI in databases since 2005. That's when I first started doing it. It is absolutely an achievable thing. It's something you guys can do. If I did it in 2005, all of you can do it today, right? CI is not that hard. Putting together an artifact depository is ridiculously simple, and building these artifacts that you then use for your rollouts is actually really easy. So you can do it, right? It can be done, but you need to focus down on the important stuff, and the important stuff is just right there. Start right there at CI. You can build on it, but you start at CI and go. Is everyone okay with that? I mean, again, we're going to cover the whole gamut. I will not short you or leave you out in the cold, but I'm emphatic that this be focused, right? Because I want you to get something useful out of it, not just another product demo. Okay? Cool. And we'll do product demos too. So the goals. These are the official goals, but you've already heard my goal, right? We've talked about it. Continuous delivery is not continuous deployment, right? Continuous deployment is getting stuff all the way out to production all the time. Continuous delivery is the ability to do that, but not necessarily either the desire or the or the effect of it, right? You want to be able to get to it. You want to be able to make your production change, your database changes production ready, production tested, production available, but not necessarily roll them right out to production. We already talked about this morning too. We talked about the basic release pipeline. You're going to go through, minimum 3 stages: development, doing stuff. Wow, it's a little loud. Testing stuff. Does that include QA? I don't know, maybe. Does it include financial testing? Sure, if you need it. Does it include other types of testing? Absolutely. And then you're going to production, right? So that's your basic pipeline. And then On top of that, you layer continuous integration, continuous delivery, and continuous deployment if you want to go that far. Everyone still with me on these? Cool. 4 key stages again. Just reinforcing stuff, kind of review, and then we're going to spend more time on some of the nuts and bolts of making this stuff happen, because that's really what I want to spend my time talking about. Source control, CI, automated testing, automated deployment. Those are goals, not necessarily things you're going to do. Who here, honestly, who here has all their database in source control today? Cool, half this room. Cool, that's great. So step 1 done. Who here is running CI on databases today? Cool, good, about a quarter of you guys, excellent. Automated testing with CI. It's funny, the hands are just slowly fewer and fewer, but cool, okay, great. And then are you guys really looking at some of the automated deployment stuff is what you're in here for? Okay, we're gonna cover it, I promise. But I'm gonna make sure that if you just saw, most of the rest of the people are not doing CI, so we're gonna make sure that that gets in there. Version control, most of you are already doing it. The thing about it is, you wanna put everything in, right? It's not a partial thing. When I first started doing database deployments and trying to automate this stuff, the one thing I knew I could get in there, I did, and it was store procedures and views. And, well, we didn't have triggers because I hate triggers. But store procedures and views, we got those things in there and got those under control, and we were able to deploy those in an automated fashion and version them with the application code and all that fun stuff, but it just wasn't enough. But at the time, the tooling and support would have required massive amounts of labor on my part to make it work, and it just wasn't worth it, right? And that's 2002, 2003, 2004-ish time frame. It just was too hard. But starting in 2005, the tools suddenly became available, and you could start doing this. Get it into source control, commit early, commit often, right? After it's been tested, unit tests should occur before you commit, but use the tools and train your people and build as often as you can. I mean, as often as you can, do the builds, because every time you do a build, it's practice, right? And I kind of use build and deploy interchangeably. But if it's hard, people won't do it, right? If this is difficult, if this is really, really onerous, people won't do it. And who here was not in my session this morning? Few people, okay. Almost half, okay, cool. But one thing I did say this morning, and I'll repeat, sorry for the people who've heard this before, the hardest part here, the most labor, is building tests. Building tests is brutal. It's not that it's difficult, it's not, but it's time consuming. It really is. You have to think it through, you have to code it, you have to test the test, and it's literally difficult work. It just is. So that's gonna be your hardest part. Most of the rest of it we're going to kind of go through is ridiculously simple. And when you get tools like SQL source control, heck, if you use SSDT, SQL Server Database Tools, you can get your code into source control. It works. You can do it. We work better, but you can get your code into source control, and so you should. CI. You've got to have, to start CI, you must have source control. You can't do CI manually. Can't. There's just no such thing. It's not a continuous environment if you're like, well, hang on, let me pull some things and do some stuff and push some buttons and look at my GUI. My GUI's pretty. Okay, and keep going. It's not going to work. Automation is the key, and you have to be able to do that from a code repository. It's the only way you can get it done. But you set this up, you get functional testing, you get delivery testing, and you get all kinds of other cool stuff, including the generation of artifacts. And that's the big key, is testing and artifact generation. Because what you want is to have an artifact that you can carry through your process that you test over and over and over again. And every time you run that artifact against a server, it validates that that artifact works. Every time you run a test against the server after running that artifact, it further validates that artifact works. Every time you check that the data is not lost, every time you do any other types of checks, you're further validating this process. And so you get that artifact, and by artifact, what do I mean? Well, we're database people, T-SQL, right? Can you generate artifacts through SSIS? Yeah. Is it the same? No. right? It's going to be an SSIS package, and the SSIS package gets deployed however you do your SSIS package deployments. Can you do it through these processes? Yeah. Is it the same? No. But you still can do it. Don't get hung too much on T-SQL. Any SSIS freaks in here? I love you guys, because you do stuff I can't do, right? I talked about networking this morning. These are the people I network with. It's like, I don't know SSIS, please come help me. But you guys can take advantage of this stuff too. It's just it's a slightly different process for you. So here's my recommendation for CI. First one you do try is the easy one. A complete redeployment. Data-free, no worries, life is good, it's fast, it's simple, it's clean, it's quick. The validations are smaller because all it's going to validate is that your code works. It's going to ensure that the store procedures that you've written will compile into the SQL Server, that the tables, scripts that you have will compile, that the order in which bloody SQL source control puts it together into actually functions correctly. And it will, because we've tested the heck out of it. But you get to make those validations that the changes in the scripts that you've made and checked into source control work. And that's your first test. It's the easiest test. You get that out the door. It's not the only testing you should do. Also, this testing, this complete deployment, I wouldn't build an artifact out of that. Because what's the artifact there? The whole database. How often do we deploy the whole database? Well, in release 1.0, how many of those do we do? One, right? And then after that, what happens? Well, then you're on 1.1 or 1.01 or whatever your naming or versioning scheme is, I don't know, right? Anybody in a food coma yet? Everybody doing okay? Cool. I'm going to talk fast and loud because, one, that's just, I'm a fast, loud person, but I would recommend running this all the time. Every 5 minutes. Every check-in, maybe, right? Most of the stuff we're showing you here is triggered on check-in. It doesn't have to be. It can be triggered on a timer. Run it every 5 minutes. Get 5, 10, 15 check-ins. However many, depending on your team, depending on how many people are running. But run it frequently, right? And because it gives you very fast, immediate validations. Because no data is involved, it's a limited check, but it's quick. So just run it. Boom, 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 boom. If you get a failure, you want to know about that failure, and you get that feedback fast. Now, second kind of build, incremental. Data. We bring the data in. We either restore from production after we cleaned everything. Remember my porn story from this morning? Don't do that. That was really not fun. We clean the data, and then we use it. Granted, well, I have a 20 terabyte database. You can't do that, right? You'll have to do something else. You may have to do a limited subset of your data. You may have to build test data. Great, do that. Do whatever you have to do to get as close as you can to production, but get some data in that database. Make it look exactly like production, then run your deployments, right? Because what's that going to do? It's going to do a complete build validation. If you've made X number of changes to your system, and they could potentially delete data, they could potentially break your application, they could potentially do all kinds of horror, you want to have something that does a build that validates whether or not that build's going to burn down the house. That's what this build is for. And this one, generate the artifact. You may not ever reuse it. Right? The whole idea is to have that artifact and test it, but decide whether or not you need to reuse it or not. You may not from here, because you may run it, it fails the test. Well, guess what we're doing with that artifact? That's on the trash heap. Right? And we go back, find out why it failed, do fixes in our code, check everything back into source control, do the build again, right? Until we get the build right. Then when you get the build right, that artifact is a potential for promotion. That one, oh, hey, look, we've got a build that works. It could go to QA. Not saying it will, but it could. And that's what this is about. How often should you run that? It's your call. Once a day? Twice a day? Once a week? How big's your data? How fast is your deployment process, right? What kind of decisions have you made around that stuff? It's a less frequent because it's going to be harder, right? If you've got to restore, say, a 500 gig database, it's going to take half an hour. You can't run it on every check-in, right? Because 15 check-ins came in and it fired off 15 triggers to load this, and it's, wait a minute, if we do that, it's still going to be running tomorrow morning when I come in. Yes, it will. Oh, and by the way, you've done some more check-ins while we were actually talking. Oh, crud, I'm in trouble. Yes, you are, right? So triggering that off of check-in is probably a bad plan, depending on the data size, depending on the amount of data you're dealing with. Is everyone okay with everything I've said? Is this fairly clear? Is everyone already on top of this and going, yeah, Grant, you're repeating stuff I already got? Or is this, I'm trying to make this the helpful bit. Okay, good, good. Just give me the feedback so we're sure that this is laying stuff out. Demo, cool, demo time. There we go. You guys have already seen TeamCity, right? I don't want to show you, I'm not gonna go and modify my code so you guys can see it, walk through all these processes. They've showed you that at the keynote. I didn't show you in my demo. But Rob showed you at his lunchtime demo. Steve showed you in several demos that he's done. I mean, you've already seen this stuff go by. So let's just talk about what you can do here. Why would you go into TeamCity? What's this going to offer you? I mean, obviously, if we take out the database, break it down, and edit our settings here. Come on. Why you do this to me, Damie? Come on. This VM is acting up. It's running slow. Good God, it's running really slow. How about that local sports team? Seriously, come on. Well, what I was going to do is try cheating, but we'll try refreshing the page first. Whoa, that wasn't good. Lighthouse, TeamCity. We're not doing monitor, I promise. Okay, let's try cheating. I'm a big fan of cheating. We're going to try man, it's just running slow. It's just not moving. Okay, crud. All right, I'm going to walk you through a little song and dance time. Hey. The thing is that what you want to look at when you look in this is that this has capability for doing just about anything. It can run PowerShell scripts. It can run command line scripts. It can connect directly to T-SQL itself and make database calls. So when you start saying like, well, okay, so what do we do? Well, you set this thing up and well, Redgate showed me it runs a script thing that compares the database and generates some T-SQL, and that T-SQL comes out the other door, and we check boxes on and off for running T-SQL T tests, and cool, we're great. That is awesome, actually, but that's the simplest part. What if we just said, hey, you know what? On a nightly basis, we have a process that backs up our database. Anyone run database backups? Cool. That's good to see most of the hands go up. Yeah, everyone goes, nah, it's for the weak. We have a process that runs a backup once a night. Let's go into TeamCity and take a copy of that backup and run a restore to my local database, because I can run a command line utility through here, call PowerShell if I want to, and run a restore of my database automatically. Gosh, Grant, that means I wouldn't have a DBA doing that. You're right. The DBA wouldn't do that, but the DBA could set up the script. So it runs the restore. Well, what else should it do? Well, it should clean out any of the email data so we don't send porn to anyone, right? And maybe change any other data that needs to get changed, make some modifications, and we can run this all through a set of scripts. And hey, guess what? Suddenly, what we've got is a test database ready to run, and it's all run automatically through here. That's easy to do. It's just a series of steps. I just wanted to show you what steps it had capable. So you don't have to simply do what Redgate's got set up for you. You can go in and start saying, well, wait a minute, I've got other ideas on how I can get this set up. Do them. By the way, I've got different security settings that I need to set in here that I don't want to go into production, but I need to have them in here for some testing that I'm going to do. Cool. Add another step after the database build that puts security settings in that you need to have there. Do it after the build so that you're ensuring that the build doesn't go, hey, here's extra data, here's extra information here that we may need to drop. You don't want to drop that stuff. Well, okay, run your build and then add that stuff second. Oh, cool. Well, now we've got the mechanism for setting up special security here. I can just keep going, right? Imagine all the other stuff you can do. Well, I also want to have a thing that just goes in and counts tables. Okay, cool. Go in and have a row count on tables. Set up a series of T-SQL scripts, have them output here. Yeah, but what do I do with the output? Well, I can't show it to you right now. I can have it send me emails when the outputs don't match a particular set of records that I keep that show me how many records I ought to have in the tables. Oh, cool. And this is all stuff I've done. I didn't do it with Team City. Team City's much easier to do this with. I did them with, no, it's not Jenkins. What's the other one? Cruise Control. Yeah. I hate Cruise Control. Now, at the time it was magic, but now I hate it. Is anybody from Cruise Control? Am I going to get hit? Okay, good. It's not a bad software. It's not. It's one of the other ones that does this. Plus, I mean, heck, the way Team City's working today, maybe it's time to go back to Cruise Control. Be completely blunt. But you don't have to get caught in doing this one way. You need to think it through and think about the fact that you may have extra steps you need to put in. Fine, put them in. This thing is capable. And by the way, we don't sell Team City. You do realize that's not a Redgate product, right? We've got plugins for it. We're supporting it, but we also have plugins for Jenkins. We support Jenkins. Most of our plugins are available in command line form, so you can run, say it, Cruise Control, right? So you don't have to worry about whether or not you've got a fancy GUI. It's all available through plugins. It just makes things easier. Any questions on that? I realize you can't see it happening. But does everybody get where I'm going with that? Is everybody all right with the direction? I really want you to think it through. Don't feel limited by the simple, well, we run a deployment against an existing database. No, man, you guys can have fun, right? Build out the tests you need to build out the way you need to build them. Right? My validation team right there. They're going, oh, we don't know who you're talking about. Come on. There it goes. Gosh, that thing's slow. All right. So that's CI. That's the important stuff I really want to get across. I'm sorry I can't show you I'm sorry Team City's acting up on my VM here. Focus here. Don't focus there. This is the pretty stuff, right? Focus on the CI. You get that right, the rest of the stuff may or may not follow, but you're going to be a much happier camper. If you've got automated validations, you're going to be really happy. Yes, automated deployments are great, but automated validations are better. Here's the deal. You want to get to the point where you can check it into source control, get a build done, get a set of tests done, and then keep developing. And do all that in a continuous loop. But the main thing you want to get out of it is a deployment package. Now that can be DAC pack. Cool, no worries. It can be NuGet packages. Excellent, have fun. It can just be straight T-SQL. Fine, go for it. But you get that package, that thing that deployed successfully. Once you've got that thing that deployed successfully, you take it, the same one, and you go through testing, right? You've got a QA department that has to do an eyeball test. Great. Take their 1.0 to 2.0 package, apply it to their database, they're now on 2.0. Can you automate that through Team City or one of the other processes? Yep. No reason why not. Could I just do a backup on my existing production server and put it? Well, hang on, that makes QA easier. Yes, yes it does. So we take the same package and we do staging. Same way. Refresh it from production. Validate the stuff. Using the same package. We don't edit the package. We rebuild it if we have to, but we don't edit it. But we make sure that that can go all the way back out to production. And if there's an outage, back we go to development. Right? If we find it fails in staging, if we find it fails in testing, we go back to development. We make the changes necessary. They will go through an immediate CI process. They'll go into the daily thing, or you could even do it on demand, right? No reason why you can't say, well, you know, we don't want to do it daily, but I want to do it when I want to do it. Cool. Do it on demand. No reason why not. CI process. And then it'll generate a new package, and you put that same package back through testing, staging, and into production as you know, successful. So the only key point is that you want to save that. So what's an artifact repository look like? Any guesses? Folder on a file system. Oh, no, come on, better guess than that. Source control, right? That's all it is. That's all we're talking about, source control. Checking the stuff into source control. Now, I'm not going to demo it because it's broken. Team City, hey. So, pre-production. Who here has a staging and or pre-prod and or, those are mainly the names I understand, staging and pre-prod. Does anybody have a different name? Acceptance testing? Acceptance system? Okay. No, I'm not throwing rocks. I hadn't heard it called that, but that would work too. Sure. But it's, for everyone involved, it is a validation step prior to production, yes? It's not a full-on QA server. It's literally just a validation for production. And I know you guys are working on it. Cool. It's really important, if you can, to get that. Again, try to get it as close as you can to production. Does that mean a backup and restore? That's the easy way, unless you got lots and lots of data, which up to 2 terabytes, again, I've got a new toy. You want to go out and talk to David Atkinson out in the lobby, he can tell you about my new toy. It's called, what is it, Instant Clone or something. It's pretty slick. I'm really excited about it. But anyway, it's sidetrack. Total sidetrack. Sorry. You can use a diff tool. Backup and restore is my preferred mechanism. What we used to do was at night, by the way, devs, not picking on you. This is, again, it's a safe area again. We're not doing execution plans anymore. DBAs. You get asked by devs to have access to production. A few people are shaking heads. People are going, no, I never get asked by my devs to get access to production because I've killed them all. It's the French phrase, pour encourager l'autre, right? He's got a head on a spike outside of his desk. Anyway, I had the same requests, and my response was probably typical of many DBAs. It was an expletive-laden 5-minute rant, followed by the word no. Then I was told by my boss I had to. Anyway, so here's what I did. We have to have a staging environment because we need it for our deployment testing for production, right? Cool. I'm running a nightly backup in order to restore to the staging environment to ensure that I'm ready for deployment testing in the morning. Why don't I just throw some dev logins into the staging environment? The developers can go into staging, do something stupid, which they're inevitably going to do, not because they're evil, just because they, have an inquisitive experimental nature and they don't think about the fact that they're burning production to the ground. Again, not evil, just wrong. But we give them access to staging. Well, wait a minute, that means I can actually dual purpose the staging environment. Yeah! Well, that makes it easier to sell the boss on this. Yes! Right? It's an extra thing you can do. So make sure you get a pre-prod environment. It's a great way to go. So we're ready, right? Now we're going to go deploy. But wait, there's more. Who here has not seen SQL Lighthouse today? So let me ask you a question, a serious question. Do you get drift in production? Me too. Why? Well, I'll tell you my horror story. I think I already told this before, but I'll mention it again. I worked for a company that gave SA to everybody. Everybody, every single individual in the company had SA privileges and were encouraged to go into the database and make changes. Why? Because databases are easy. Quote, unquote, of the CEO of the company that no longer exists, by the way. Databases are easy, and they were regularly burning the DBA's hard work to the ground. DBA lasted 9 months in that company. I couldn't take it. But yes, I had serious drift. But where do you get most of your drift? Where's most of it coming from? I'm assuming most of us are not SA for everyone. Is anyone else SA for everyone? And if you are, find a new job. It's my best recommendation. That's what I did. Okay, cool. Where do we get most of it? 2 places, at least from my experience. 1, junior DBA, right? Well, I'll just fix it right here. 2, it's 3 a.m. and I'm the DBA. I'm just going to fix it right here. I say it slower than the junior DBA because I'm older and I'm tired. Though I do the same thing. Drift is going to occur, and it's going to occur for valid reasons. At 3 a.m. you're going to do something stupid or necessary, and it can be both, stupid and necessary, in order to make sure the server's back online. And if you forget to refresh and reset that environment, then drift can occur, right? If you don't forget, I'm sorry, not refresh and reset. God, don't do that to production. I got a story about that too. I'll tell you this though, I have never, to this day, knock wood, restored a production database by accident. Hey, I'm sorry, I'm proud. I've done it to dev multiple times, and I've done it to QA several times, but I haven't done it to prod yet. Yes, I know, I put in that word because I'm still young. I'm only 51. So wait, what was I saying? If you make a change, you need to put it back into source control and all that other stuff, and you have to have a process for this. It's something that doesn't get mentioned a lot of times. You're going to make changes outside of this very carefully laid out, all these little stick figure guys going through the process, right, doing their thing. You're going to make changes outside of that because it's a necessary part of emergency fixes, all kinds of issues. You have to have an emergency process where you say, okay, cool, do that, but write down what you did, capture that script, make sure we go all the way back, put it into source control, make a comment in source control, yes, put comments in, and check it in so that it's then part of the build process. Everybody okay with that? Okay, cool. So now we're ready, yes? Heck no. Stuff goes wrong. We are DBAs. We know this. The world hates us. Sunspots, extra solar radiation causes problems on disks. Do you know that? As the sun moves, as our sun itself moves through the solar system, it moves through varying fields of radiation. And that can cause problems on your disks. I love my job, right? The world, the universe is out to get me. So we need to have a rollback and recovery strategy as part of our deployment processes. So protection, right? We are still DBAs. Am I trying to get you to go fast, 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 fast? Yes, I absolutely am. But am I telling you to just throw away, hey, heck with it, it's all good, we'll be fine, no worries. No. So you need to have stuff in place as part of your deployment process, as part of your deployment sphere to make sure you've got protection. Backup's number one, easiest one, right? No special needs, they work on standard enterprise, doesn't matter. Backup, done. Yeah, but Grant, I got 5 terabyte system. Okay, that may not work for you, right? Because backups take a long time. Fine. Snapshots. Yeah, but we don't have enterprise. Tough. Get enterprise. I don't work for Microsoft. It's a joke. It's a joke. But if you have enterprise, if you are running a 5 terabyte system, get enterprise, right? There's all kinds of things in there where you need that, right? The whole thing, you know, online index rebuilds, all that fun stuff. Anyway, snapshots, right? You can automate those as part of your rollout scripts. Rollback scripts. I hate rollback scripts. I think rollback scripts are an evil nightmare. Why? One, where are you going to detect most of your errors? Well, one, testing, right? And so what rolls out is going to work perfectly, right? Most of the time. But you're going to find them out immediately, right? You're going to run it in production and go, whoa, everything blew up. So what do? You're going to restore, undo the snapshot, whatever. Do you need a rollback script? Nope, because it blew up right then. Okay, so when do you generally then find blowups? 6, 8, 12 hours later, 2, 3, 5 days later, a couple of weeks later. Wow, that release we put out was really messed up. Well, let's run a rollback script. Well, there's no data changes or anything to worry about, are there? Yeah, right? So all the data is in there, and rollback script is just not going to work. I think it's an incredible amount of labor to put together for something that you're going to use exceedingly sparingly and probably not at all, depending on the problem. Instead of rollback scripts, I recommend roll forward scripts, right? You've just built this whole mechanism for doing deployment testing. We've got one little error. I know. What if we run it on CI, make sure that our tests, our repair works, do a real quick QA, take the package that we generated, drop it on production, roll forward, done. If you're building out these mechanisms, that's the best way to go. You can do A/B, or what they call blue-green deployments. I find them hard in most situations, although I was working with data warehousing teams and building data marts, and they're fairly small data marts, like very focused subsets of the data for different top parts of the business. And we did A/B on that because what we could do is do a full data load into one, and then at night just disconnect everybody, swap the databases, and we're done. And that worked real well. I mean, it was minimal downtime or zero, near zero downtime, and it worked great. But it's not something you can do in most systems, and it mainly only works for smaller. You get the 500 gig, 1 terabyte systems. It's really hard to have a 2 terabyte load and then swap everything out. Anybody do this one? A couple people? It actually works well, and it makes deployments real easy because you go into the B side, run the deployment. Wow, that really burned everything down. That stinks. Oh well, right? Because what happens? Nothing. You didn't break anything in production yet. You reset, figure out what's going on, figure out what's wrong, fix it, and rerun the deployment. So it's an easy way to get by it, but it's a limited utility for most of us. But I like to bring it up. No demo for that. So recap. Yeah, please go for all this that you can go for, but this is your baby, right? Start there. If you're past that, oh wait, no, I did have one demo here. I'm so sorry. You guys almost got away too. The other demo I wanted to talk about was here. I don't want to show you this again. You've seen it all day long. The main thing I want to show you is a couple of bits in it that you may not have seen. And it's acting up too. I think my VM is just on an unhappy individual right now. There we go. Cool. Here's the bit I want to show you. When you set up a deployment tool like Octopus, the really beautiful thing is you can set up a series of variables in it. What do the variables give you? Well, they give you the ability to decide if you want to go to one database or another. Okay, cool, that means, great, thanks, Grant, that's wonderful. But you can also say, okay, wait, for this server or this server type, if it's a production server type, make sure you run this extra script, or make sure you do these extra steps, or make sure you have a security setting that's different from you set on the other servers. And you can set these through variables, right? Same thing goes when you set up the There we go. Come on. There it goes. Cool. When you set up this process, when you set up all these steps, you can put in extras. Don't feel constrained. This is just the same way as the Team City, right? This supports PowerShell. And what can PowerShell do? Whatever you can think of. Why would I say that? Because it's a CLR tool. You're a C# programmer, you know a C# programmer, and you need a special bit of code? Cool. Get that special bit of code written, and you can call it from PowerShell. You can build these things out to do it any way you need to do it. Don't get hung on the simple processing. Make sure that you've got that thought process going that lets you set this stuff up the way you want to. Don't feel like you're caught. Don't feel like you're limited. You're not. It's completely open. I mean, it's scary open. But you want to think through and come up with a process, but don't feel like, well, darn, if only we could run some T-SQL. Go for it, right? If you've got some standard T-SQL set that you've got to run in production separate from other parts of the deployment, do that. You can completely set it up that way. You'll notice these things are set up, this is only for DB servers, right? Or this part down here is, come on. Man, the mouse is acting funny on this VM. I need to reboot it. Look at that. It's fighting me the whole way. There we go. So that's only for DB servers, that's only for app servers, and you can set it up so that it's only for production or only for QA or only for development, and you can control this thing directly, right? So it's not simply, here's a series of steps. Here's a series of steps for QA. Here's a series of steps for production. It's the same packages, but different steps, so you can have different levels of modification. And I like to bring that out and point that out because you need to think these things through. There's not a rote formula. Your environment's different and you may have different requirements. Let's get the heck out of this thing that's burning to the ground because I don't like things that burn to the ground. All right. Documentation is pretty much the same as documentation as this morning. Continuous Delivery by Jess Humble, great book. The Goal, great book. For those who haven't heard it, I want you to read a novel. No, not 50 Shades of Grey. It's probably not a very good novel. This isn't a very good novel either, okay? This is called The Phoenix Project. But the cool thing about The Phoenix Project is you've worked with everybody that's in the book. All the characters are your buddies and friends and pals and former bosses, and you will love the read. I got it done in a day, and I am not a fast reader. But I just sat down and it was like, oh my God, I know this person. And it's all about DevOps. It's all about that integration, communication, crossover between operations and development that has to occur to make this kind of stuff work. Do you need it for the CI processes? No, you don't. You can completely wall yourself off and still set up the CI process and get benefit from it. But I would not wall yourself off. I would open yourself up and then go for the CI processes. Yeah, hands-on lab. Any questions on anything you didn't get answered today that we need to answer before we have wine in our hands? What level of testing would you make for a realistic aim for code testing in databases? Great question. One thing I had tried to do myself and failed is a full-blown test-driven development for every bit of code in the database. Don't do that. It hurt a lot. It took a lot of my time. It had very, very little visible benefit at all. My recommendation is if you have data manipulation that is non-standard and or not, okay, most unit testing in dev is going to be stubbed out, right? They're not going to make actual database calls. So, or most of the time for most code. So that's fine. But if you've got non-standard data manipulations, I would write your own tests for those. If it's a simple insert, update, delete statement, no, I wouldn't write unit tests for that. It's crazy. I absolutely would never write a unit test again for select statements. That I can't believe I did that. Someone should have had, I should have been beaten, really. I beat myself plenty, but someone should have beaten me because that was a dumb decision. So yeah, I would go for the non-standard deviations, not everything. While we have the ability to do this testing, while we have the ability to automate that testing, writing it is still labor. And so you want to save that labor for where it matters. That's my recommendation. Any other questions? Sir?
So would you recommend having your team server sitting in your dev server, or do you have unlimited questions?
That's a great question. Would I recommend putting a team server on the dev server? Sure, maybe. In our case, we put it on its own server. It was a VM, a fairly small VM, because SQL Server was on it, and all the stuff was on the VM, and TeamCity was on the VM, and then did it run real fast? Nope. But what did it do? Well, every 5 minutes, it ran a code build, it ran a set of code tests, and ran a database build, and ran a database build. It took about 3 minutes when it succeeded. Sometimes took longer when it failed, but it took about 3 minutes. So cool. I mean, could it have run faster? Yeah. But did it need to? No. So and it worked. It worked real well. I mean, in some of the nightly tests that we did, they ran in about 3 hours, but we didn't care, right? Because we started like at 7 at night, it finished at 10 at night, and 10:30 people would be on the phone. You broke the build. I'll worry about it tomorrow. No, 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 you got to do it now. We got QA build tomorrow. No, you don't. Anybody else? Okay, cool. There's still going to be, like, there's what, one more session? There's 2 more sessions, right? 2? There's, one more session, then lightning talks. There's the other session, I think you should go, because it's notes from the field. Yeah, well, you 2 should go. It would be good, right? They're speakers. But it's notes from the field about all this stuff. People who've done it and are going to tell you, hey, guess what? This part hurts, right? Don't do that part, And so that's going to be really useful. And then the lightning talks, are they going to be fun or informational? A bit of both. Okay, cool. Lightning talks will be a bit of both. Thanks for coming.